two main parties in this province, the NDP and the Liberals, are charged with finding new leaders. That is imminent. And so we have been discussing with our guest, Gary Mason, who is a wonderful columnist for the Globe and Mail, who these candidates are, what chances they may have, and what they may or may not bring to the party. So now we jump into the Liberals. And George Abbott, alphabetically, is the first. And Abbott seems, I discussed this with a few of my friends, of all the people in both parties, in my mind, almost the most sort of reasonable and possible person to be a premier. He has that almost presidential quality.
Yeah. In some ways, he's the most qualified for the job. And in some ways, I think he deserves the job.
Why? Why does he deserve it?
Well, because he's been in government a long time.
Yes.
But you know, that's not his only qualification. But he's done such a good job while he's in government. I mean, he handled the toughest beat in government, the health ministry, for 5 years, and did by almost everyone's estimation, a marvelous job at that. Went into Aboriginal relations. The people on that side, the Aboriginal community, loved this guy. He didn't really get a chance to get started in education, but he's really worked hard. And you know, if there's any justice out there, then there should be something for all that hard work he put into it. I don't think people gave George much of a chance when this thing started out. You know, everybody was looking at Kevin Falcon, and then Christy Clark came in. But now I'm hearing a lot of buzz around George's campaign.
Well, Kevin Falcon and Christy Clark are what you'd call noisy candidates.
Yeah.
Abbott is a little quieter, and I think he's way smarter than a lot of people have given him credit for over the years.
Yeah. Where he really stands out is are these leadership forums where he's on the dais with the other candidates talking about issues. And then that really exposes the people that know what they're talking about and the people that don't have a clue what they're talking about.
Speaking of whom, Christy Clark is running.
Yeah.
Christy Clark is a charming, wonderful, charismatic person, and she's great at a shindig. She's great at a party. She's fun to talk to, and she's jolly and funny. Did she do so great in government? I mean, when she ran Children and Families, which continues to be the worst ministerial office in the government, person after person. How many people have they had? Like 20 people in the last 10 years?
Yeah. I think that you've kind of hit the criticism around Christie's campaign. I mean, she's a very charismatic individual, without a doubt. And in a room of 100 people, she can wow the crowd.
Sure.
But she doesn't have near the resume that George has in terms of government. Her time as education minister was very controversial. People will say that she didn't really get a lot done. And then after that, she was a radio host for 4 years. So some people wonder how she is qualified for the job. I think, the other day at that leadership forum when she was up there with the others talking about policy, I mean, that's where I think her weakness was really exposed. And even some of her campaign people told me that is not the best forum where she's up there to be compared.
She's great at working a room.
She's great at working a room. But
it also, Gary, it also illustrates this thing that you've talked about before, and we talked about in the first part of this program, about having a vision for the province. We haven't heard anybody really talk about a vision for the province. The complete opposite of that, to me, is Christy Clark coming up with Family Day, an expensive sop to I don't know whom.
Yeah.
Huh? Family Day? Come on, I want to hear something. I want to hear about policy. That's not policy, that's a gimmick.
You've zeroed in on another criticism that Christy is a sort of a politician first, who's always looking for angles, always looking for that move that's going to work for some reason or appeal to some group, rather than what's in the greater interest of the province as a whole. Why are we really doing this? So
tough question. Could she win just by being American Idol? I mean, could she win just by people loving her or liking her?
Absolutely. Absolutely. In the same way Bill Vander Zalm won in '86. Absolutely.
Okay. Mike de Jong, who likes to call himself Open Mike.
Yeah. I like de Jong heading into this race. I mean, I think he's a very capable politician. He's done a good job in government. I think that the Bassey, signing off on that $6 million Bassey-Verk settlement, that really hurt him, I think, politically.
It'll hurt him next week when we talk about it.
But, I've really been impressed with him during these forums. He's got a real folksy charm. The crowd likes him. I don't give him much of a chance in this race, but
really?
I'm glad. No,
could he run a government?
Oh, I think he could run a government.
He's run at least 3 ministers.
I think he could quite easily. I just think he doesn't have the momentum behind him that the others do. I think he's too far behind. Now, I could be wrong, but I don't see him winning.
Now, we started with the pit bull, Adrian Dix from the NDP, and now we get the Liberal pit bull, Kevin Falcon.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy just shoots out of the blocks so quickly at everything.
Oh yeah, he's a hard charging guy.
Yeah.
And when you hear him talk, it's hard charging. You know, like he'll talk about an issue, and it's like he's running forward as he's talking. It's impressive in some respects. I mean, the other day at the BC Chamber Forum, I thought he was very good. I thought he and Abbott were the best. He really knows his stuff. This is a guy it's quite clear, David, that both he and Abbott have been preparing for this leadership race for some time.
For a long time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, to some extent, that's a deficit, a disadvantage that Christie has, because she hasn't been boning up on the issues the way these other guys do. But Falcon is good on the issues, very, very good. But he's also seen as a bit of a divisive character, right? The same way Clark is, which creates this.
I tell you frankly, he scares me a little bit. He's obviously a bright guy, and he can be very charming and so on. Yeah. But he scares me because he has such an entirely free enterprise approach to life, and he brings that to health. He brings it to highways. He had to back down. You know, the government had to back down a few times on some triple Ps. You know, that just didn't work, and especially in healthcare. I'd be a little afraid of seeing him having the reins.
Yeah, but you know, the interesting thing about Falcon is that even people in health, who are, you know, there's the healthcare community, who are kind of moderate, kind of liberal type people. The one thing that they've said about Falcon in that ministry is that he gets things done. You know, he's not a real, he doesn't need 30 studies to do something. He actually, okay, what's the problem? What do we need to do? Okay, let's do it then. George is a real consultant, right? Likes to take his time, make sure, real consensus seeker. That's two different approaches, and not everybody, you know, likes the consensus.
Okay, here's a candidate who is so forgotten, I actually forgot until yesterday to include him on the list. Oh, God. He's the mayor of Parksville. Yeah. He's known as, or I just dubbed him Double Ed, Ed Main, because Ed Main is the king of Tim Hortons. He ran a Tim Hortons, he ran a Wendy's. Yeah. He's got a lot of practical experience and so on, but where did he come from? Yeah. You know, does anybody know him besides? What?
You shouldn't feel bad, because I left him out of one of my columns once too, but he's easy to forget. Even at the forum the other day, he didn't really say much that was interesting. Although one thing he said that was kind of notable, I thought, he said none of the candidates running for the Liberal leadership should be making promises to do things, because they're not running in a general election. They're running for the leadership of a party. So what are they doing making all these promises? I thought there's actually some people that believe that, but anyway, but that was the most notable thing he said, I thought.
Okay, and finally, from the Langara district, Dr. Moira Stillwell. Yeah. Yeah, I don't see her having much of a shot either.
No, I'm still trying to figure out why she ran, but maybe it's, you know, some people just run to boost their profile. She's obviously a really bright woman, but doesn't have a real presence, but a nice person though.
What are you hoping for in terms, you wrote a column last week, a headline, BC Liberal leadership race suffering from vision vacuum. I don't hear it. Here's my list: health and education closures, testing, crime on the streets, the RCMP, resources, productivity, the compassionate society. I don't hear any of these candidates talking about that. I haven't heard anybody really saying what we have to do with our resources, where we have to go with coal and oil, where we have to go with lumber. I haven't heard anybody talk about, are we our brother's keeper, and so on.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's it. For me, nobody has kind of described or put together a vision of what they want this province to be, or what it can be, or what they see this province being in 10 or 20 years, and what we're all building towards. I mean, something that can get us excited beyond, you know, a provincial holiday and a 1% tax cut, or a reduction on the HST. I mean, it's sort of the politics of incrementalism. I mean, it's just nothing.
Little bits and pieces.
Little bits and pieces, you know, to satisfy this constituency or that constituency, or get a vote here, or get a vote there. I want somebody to sort of say, this is where I want to take this province. This is where I can see this province going in confederation. Something with a grander vision than what we've seen so far, which has been kind of pathetic.
Is there anybody who might do that before any of these elections happen?
I don't know, but I think so far, I think George has come the closest to, George Abbott that is, to putting together something that resembles a vision. He's not there yet, but I think his plan is the most detailed, and I think if you could whip it into something that looks like a vision.
Deborah McPherson, the dynamic president of the Nurses Association, right. Nurses Union, has decried the Liberal candidates in terms of health care. She says that there are so many problems in health care, service cuts, fee increases, greater opportunities for private profit operations, and so on, overcrowded hospitals. Look, my son took my former mother-in-law to the hospital the other day. She's 90, she's got 86 million problems. 6 hours in the hallway. Yeah. Out in White Rock or wherever, you know.
You know, David, my feeling about that is there's always going to be problems in the healthcare system. It's never going to be a perfect system. It's too
That doesn't
big.
mean we're going to sit and watch it.
No, it's not. It's not that either. But I mean, the problems are so big. You know, you just almost don't know where to begin because the costs are going to continue to go up for the next 5 or 10 years. I don't know. It's such an important thing.
But wouldn't you be cheered if Kevin Falcon, who is the Minister of Health, and if Adrian Dix or somebody spoke up and said, "Here's where we have to go"?
Yeah, absolutely. But I'll tell you, some of the boldest and most important ideas are going to ruffle a lot of people's feathers. I think if people are looking at more money to solve the problems, I think they're wrong.
Oh, the old Chrétien method of politics. Don't ever do anything because you'll offend someone. Just do nothing and keep getting reelected.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, Mike DeYoung, here's your buddy Justine Hunter, says HAST can be saved.
Yeah.
Can it? Should it?
I think
Will it?
I think it can. I really do think it can. I think that poll that the government did, it was a legitimate poll where people said, I want to hear more about what this HST and why it's so great. I haven't got enough information. I think that was quite telling. I think the HST is good tax policy.
Do you?
I do. And I think that...
we have some very ugly people waiting for you on the way out.
That's okay.
My henchmen are waiting for you.
No, but I do, and there, there's 500 economists across the country and in Europe that'll tell you why it's good tax policy too.
But in Europe they have good coffee to drink.
Yeah,
that's their excuse.
Well, we don't have bad coffee to drink.
Look, we just have a moment left. Yeah. Of all the candidates, who would you say gives the best Elvis impersonation?
Oh gosh. It'd probably be George Abbott. He's probably could do it. Christy Clark could probably do a pretty good one too. Get a glass of wine into her. She could probably do a pretty good Elvis impersonation.
Gary Mason, thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's great to have you here. All right, folks. Next week, Bill Tillman, a wonderful local journalist, will examine the trial that he sat through for years and years. The Bassie Verk story. It's still important, and so are you. Thanks for joining us.